Good morning. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for the opportunity that was given by the organizers of this session to present with this video the work of the Joint Research Center of almost a decade on the so-called INCA project. INCA stands for Integrated Natural Capital Accounting. I wish to say that I really regret of not being there in presence with you. It is due to a loss in my family on Tuesday when I was supposed to leave. Well, regretfully, I will not participate in all the interaction and exchanges during the session and during the conference in general. I will try, because I will not be able to be in the panel session, also to address a couple of issues from the panel discussions. So bear with me if there are a couple of more minutes in this presentation. First, I'd like to stress that the INCA project has benefited very much of a period of very intense discussions and debates among not only the research community, but also statisticians, international organizations, of course, behind the SIA ecosystem accounting module. Some of my colleagues, well before I have joined as team leader at the Joint Research Center, have also contributed to the working papers and guidelines that were prepared for the SIA handbook. But also, of course, we benefited from these discussions to focus and scope and develop the approach for specifically flow accounts. So the focus of INCA is on ecosystem services, but both in physical and monetary terms. It's basically an operational procedures aligned with the SIA concepts and the framework to develop values that then can be entered into statistics as supply and use tables. It's not only a research project. INCA was a collaboration between the Joint Research Center, the European Statistical Office, Eurostat, but also the Directorate General for Environment and for Research and Innovation of the European Commission, as well as the European Environment Agency. The idea was not only to have methodological development, but also to make accessible in open access all the data that were developed through the system, through the project, all the ecosystem services, both in tabular and in maps, in tabular forms and in explicit, especially explicit data, sorry. Well, the project, of course, started off with a methodological approach. The idea behind this first technical report in 2017 was to create the relationships, which are many-to-many, between ecosystem types, ecosystem services, and also the economic sectors. Then later on, we could dive into specific ecosystem services. We started with crop pollination and nature-based recreation. There we could test and use the approach of INCA that looks at both the ecological side, starting from biophysical modeling. So all the data and indicators are produced through modeling, ecological models, and combined with socioeconomic data and indicators. This allows then to come up with values to be entered into supply and use tables. But the approach, I'd like to stress this, has a more interesting component that allows also to look at and identify the vulnerabilities of ecosystem, meaning that this combination of ecological supply and socioeconomic needs can lead to, of course, a match if the needs do not exceed the supply, but can also lead to a mismatch. And this is the case, for example, of an unmet demand that can be due to a degraded ecosystem or overuse on certain areas. And this is particularly interesting if you look not only at tabular data, but more importantly at the spatially explicit data, because here you have the case of soil retention with 100 per 100 meter grid. So these maps allow us to also assess the situation at the local level. And here you can see we also have a map that identifies that there is definitely an unmet demand for this specific service. These signals also points also at, in a certain way, at the issue of sustainability that was developed a bit further in the second INCA report that looked at sustainability threshold, but also introduced new ecosystem services, crop and timber provision, carbon sequestration, and flood control. The third report added, well, basically made a summary of all the previous work, but then looked in addition to habitat and species maintenance, soil retention, and water purification. Here also there has been a little bit of reflection, and the methodology incorporated the concept of the distinction between intermediate service and final services, because crop provision incorporates also the contribution of many other ecosystem services, such as pollination or soil retention, water supply, etc. But these, of course, can also be disentangled using the methodology that was highlighted, so using biophysical modeling. But I will come back to this. Basically, with these three reports based on this scientific work, thorough work, with Eurostat developed a report that is more glossy, but also more synthetic and less technical. And it's the first attempt to combine, let's say, the ecosystem accounts, ecosystem services accounts for the various ecosystems for the whole EU, both in physical but also aggregated in monetary terms. And this work backed the preparation of a new amendment of an existing regulation. The existing regulation dates back in 2011. So in 2022, basically, this regulation introducing general environmental and economic accounts introduces for the first time the ecosystem services accounts. There are 7 different ecosystems that are mandatory, of course. Many others can be provided, and it means that as of next year, member states will have to start to produce their own ecosystem accounts. And so these are the dates. Sorry, I forgot. As you see, this is the amended regulation of 2022. But apart from the regulation, the idea of Eurostat was to provide tools for member states and entrusted or awarded a contract to a consortium to develop INCA tools to be used by member states. So this contract was awarded to a consortium led by Vito that developed plugins which are now tested by member states. It's plugins for QGIS, and they provide both data in tabular and in spatially explicit form. So basically, this is work in progress. So perhaps in a few months, you can have a final product that is you will be able to test for the time. So you can stay tuned with our website. I'd like now to move on to the focus of this session, that is this idea of using biophysical models to develop data. And here you can see for soil retention, we have, for example, the use of a variety of data, mainly Korean land cover, which is a specific EU data set, but also Copernicus that virtually covers the whole world. Here we combine Copernicus product called sea cover. It's about the fraction of vegetation cover. And at the same time, this is combined with the density of vegetation. And you can see that here this combination leads to a so-called C factor. And the smaller the C factor is, as you can see, this arrow points at forests, which are the most dense, then these indicate that there is a higher potential for this ecosystem to provide soil retention. Of course, conversely, we have burnt areas that are very, very bad in providing soil retention. Then we move on to another example, which is taken from urban ecosystem accounts. These are satellite accounts, and we developed 2 ecosystem services, air filtration, but here I want to talk about local climate regulation, which is basically regulating, is the ability of regulating ambient atmospheric condition in urban areas through the presence of vegetation. And this has an impact on the living condition of people and also in supporting the economic sector. Here also we have a combination of data which are from in situ monitoring to data from Landsat, Copernicus, even MODIS, which is a NASA data set. And these accounts are only produced for city, towns, and suburbs. And there is a direct correlation, of course. Here it's the city of Berlin. On the right side, we see that the red dots basically point at the absence of the service, and it's clearly correlated with the settlement and the sealed land. So on the contrary, on the right, for example, and the left, we see there are forests and urban and green areas that provide this type of service. So finally, I would like to say a couple of words. Allow me to go a bit beyond. So it's the fact that we have been using the C approach also to develop ecosystem condition accounts. These are developed at country level with spatially explicit data for each ecosystem. So each ecosystem has a different approach, let's say. You can have a look at the report, but basically there are more and more potential to use the INCA approach, let's say, for supporting also international processes such as the monitoring framework of the Global Biodiversity Framework with the different goals and targets, which look at the extent, ecosystem services, as well as the condition. Here we have an example taken by forestry. When you have the time, you can have a look at the paper in Nature. Of course, just to finish, we still have challenges to deal with. Of course, data availability and consistency, both spatial and temporal, still remain a challenge, and of course constrain also the models, as well as the timely validation to be able to support the policy, to have the policy support on a timely basis. But of course, we have opportunities. So the implementation of this amended regulation, which integrates mandatory ecosystem services accounts at the EU level, is a great opportunity to have practitioners, statisticians, etc., statistical offices working on these accounts and producing new data, new accounts. And also it's also an opportunity that we have a EU approach that will enable the comparability of models and data. I can just finish off by saying we can learn lessons from the INCA experience also in support the global processes. As I mentioned, both the Global Biodiversity Framework, but also the IBES Global Ecosystem Assessment. Here I would like to say the Joint Research Center will also have a role in providing the Europe's regional ecosystem assessment for IBES. And of course, we will aim at using a consistent approach also in that context. And with this, I would like to thank you, and sorry for your being a bit too long, and thank you for your patience. Especially, I would like to wish a very fruitful workshop and discussions, and hope I will have another opportunity, another time to meet you personally. Thank you very much.